Alright guys, so a lot of you all have been asking me, whether I was going to do a video in regards to the articles that we have in regards to Madden 20, all the things that we know right now. And of course, there's a lot of things I'm assuming that we don't know. But you've been asking me to give my thoughts, so I'm going to try to do this as quick as I can. I'm not going to do an individual video for each piece of information. I'll just share my thoughts here really quick, man. And you have to understand, man, that I look at this from a different lens. For you guys who are not familiar, most of you are, but, for you guys that are not familiar, I am an EA Sports game changer, okay? I've worked on Madden primarily with the devs, developed a close relationship with the devs, and I've learned over the years how this process works. I've been a game changer since 2012. Madden 13 was my first opportunity to have this connection with the devs. So I see things from a different lens, understanding the process of how things work inside that building at Tiburon, even above the devs. You guys have heard me say this numerous times. So I look at things a little differently, man, and I'm going to say about what I know about Madden 20 right now. I'm cautiously optimistic. Cautiously being a key word there. And the reason why is because I have to see how all of this plays out. I have to see how all of this is implemented and exactly what's going to happen with these features. Now, again, I have not seen anything myself from Madden 20. I have not gone to EA this year. I have not gone down to Tiburon this year. So this news, came out to me the same way you guys got it. All right, so let's clear the air on that one. Number two, the features sound pretty good. Addressing franchise mode is something that I've been pushing for how many years? I mean, let's count the years. We all know that franchise mode has been the least, immersive, or, that had the least attention paid to it in several years. And, it's fallen behind from many other sports games that have a more deeper immersive experience, whether it's a single player campaign, so to speak, in your My Careers and things like that, or if it's just, core features of franchise. And we all know that Madden has been behind there. So looking at what's being addressed, here's the thing. There's still a lot of questions that haven't been answered. Let's get that out of the way. I still don't know how the core details are going to work in franchise. And, I'm sure, marketing wise, maybe that's the reason why we don't know all of that yet. Obviously, they're going to give us some of the sizzle. And then maybe when they do the stream coming up here shortly, we'll see the full details. And I'm talking about things like roster management, and scouting and things of that nature, because they mentioned, in some of the information that we're seeing, they mentioned that, personality and morale and chemistry and all these type of things will affect your team. So I'm assuming that there'll be aspects around those areas, as well as I'm assuming hopefully there's, updates to scouting and recruiting and, pitching a free agent, etc., etc. These things we don't know. Now, again, I said I'm hoping because, again, I understand in this line of business, you can't do everything at one time. You can't just snap your fingers and everything is going to be all right. No, you have to build these things. And it sounds like from what they've done and doing in Madden 20, they are building a lot. So if some of these other things that I've mentioned is not there, okay, I understand that. But I hope that some of these things are there because, again, it starts with the core. That's for both franchise and gameplay. If the core is not intact, then a lot of these other things are really not going to be as impactful or as enjoyable. So I need to see what the core structure of franchise is, adding on these new additions that we already know about in Madden 20. Now, speaking of the superstar mode, man, you guys heard me say before, I was hoping that these things, and I'm still hoping, that things that we're going to see, I'm assuming in Superstar, as far as the structure of it, it looks like there'll probably be some type of situation where you're getting drafted and maybe combine, I don't know. But looking at the trailer, it just appears to be that some of this is going to take place, right? I hope that's also spread out across standard franchise. I hope that's the way that they're connecting all of these features, is the same way they had the idea, in current franchise where you could be a coach, you could be a player, You could, be the owner or whatever, and everybody can still be in one franchise. I hope that was the same mindset when they started implementing these things in Superstar. Any of these things and activities or off-field things that you can do there, I hope it's in standard franchise. Now, I will say I'm a little upset about the fact that it appears that you can only be a quarterback, in Superstar. Again, me knowing the back office side of things, I'm pretty sure, it took a lot to build, the QB1 or the face of the franchise situation, and I would assume that this would just be a step, that's what they would call it, a step in the right direction, and you would assume going forward there'll be more opportunity, but I would have rather have seen that come out all at one time. I don't want to see it in compartments. Everybody's story pretty much going to be the same. You create this quarterback and you go through the journey. It sounds more so like a more playable, journey. Excuse me, not journey, that's in FIFA. It sounds like a more playable long shot. And I don't really necessarily want it to be that. I would prefer it to be where I can choose any position and I can have a superstar mode. So that's a little disappointing seeing that it's just a quarterback right now. But again, I understand how things work there. Everything is not in the developer, the developmental control is not directly from the devs. There's others who influence that greatly. So I understand that part of it. But again, a little disappointing to see that it's only going to be a quarterback. Now, a lot of other things that I see here, man, as far as like the new ability system and, the X Factor abilities and superstar abilities. Really excited about that. And I know there's some mixed feeling amongst the community about it. I've had this conversation with competitive guys and, guys who don't traditionally play franchise. And, they've always told me, well, you don't really want that in franchise. But I don't think they understood what us franchise guys were going for. What we really want to see is player differentiation. We want to see players be different and separated based on their skills and abilities. It was one of the things that people still talk about in 2K8 All-Pro Football. That was one of the things that allowed that game to excel. That's one of the things that you hear people talk about for Madden 08 with the weapon system. And just in general, most of us guys who would consider ourselves sim players, in general, we like to talk about, I want to see players be different. We need to see these different skills and abilities play out on the field. Now, I understand, coming from the MUT crowd, the MUT guys are saying, listen, man, it's not all as it's cracked up to be because there's exploits and there's things that are overpowered, etc., etc. I can agree with that. I'm pretty sure it is. And it's all going to come down to how these things are balanced. But these are also the reasons why we love some of these other sports games, like your 2Ks of the world, how guys are so different and there's different animation packages. You have to have these things if you're going to replicate the real world athlete. This thing can't be void. And I know I used to have conversation with Rex a lot. Shout outs to Rex. Back when Rex was at EA, me and him used to have this conversation, and Rex used to counter it by saying, well, how do you make it realistic in franchise? And I understood where he was coming from. And I would explain to him, I was like, well, we got to find a way that these skills can be displayed or signature animation or something. And this conversation went on for a few years. Believe it or not, like I tell you guys all the time, a lot of times the devs already know where they want to go with it. Me and Rex talked about more abilities and player likeness years ago. And I knew this type of thing would come. And even still, I don't know exactly how it's being implemented. I don't know if it's going to be implemented the same way that him and I discussed back in the day. But I knew this was coming. So it's all going to come down to how is it implemented? Is it going to be balanced? Is it going to make sense? But this stuff sounds great. You're going to have your superstars and you're going to have your X Factor players. That sounds like replicating what we see on Sunday. Now, that's the last part. And I will end the conversation with this. How is this gameplay going to play out? You guys know I continue to talk about things like weight and momentum, physics playing out at all times, a player's relative positioning mattering, leverage, player movement being intact, what we thought RPM would be. I mean, having to respect footing and all of these type of things, player interaction, in terms of animations that you can be broken out of based off of physics and user control, etc., etc. We don't know anything about any of that stuff yet. And again, guys, this is early. You know, we're talking about, this is late April that we're hearing this information, and now they're willing to even show us some of this very soon here, even later this week, starting on May 2nd. But I want to know, are those things going to be addressed? Because it has to come down to core gameplay. If core gameplay cannot support these features, then we got a serious problem once again. So that's what I'm going to be paying attention to. Like I said, and you know, everything sounds great to me. You know, being a little bit biased here, I see one, you know, ability. They said that, you know, Ben Roethlisberger might be one of two quarterbacks that has the unique pump fake. And that's something that you hear commentators say all the time about Big Ben, is that pump fake is vicious. They don't understand how he's able to do it without fumbling. That should be only dedicated to one or two players that are known for that. So on paper, everything sounds very intriguing and very interesting. And again, without me knowing the full details, I still can't give a whole opinion. But what we're hearing on paper sounds pretty promising. At least to know that franchise is not being forgotten about, and that's what Mike Young says in the article. And not only is it just lip service, now the service appears to be being put into effect. So I can believe, okay, if this is what you're gonna do, if you're gonna continue to focus on franchise, and this is, you know, your dedication in year one, quote unquote, to show us where you're going, all right. But again, I have to see it. I have to see it. So until I have more information, I still ask that question. Again, guys, I've been down this road quite often in terms of how things are pre-developed and how things translate when the game launches and how things are altered once the game has been out for a while. So like I said, man, everything sounds good on paper. It's good to see that franchise is you know, being committed to again. You know, even the being able to play in the Pro Bowl. I know some people are wanting that. But I just need to hear more. I need to hear more about the core functions and core functionality of franchise. You know, the real meat and potatoes of it. Roster management and training and all those type of things. And scouting. And then gameplay. Listen, y'all already know. Player interaction, player movement, relative positioning, physical mass, physics. All of that. Branching animation, user control. Are these things being addressed? That remains to be the question. All right, man. So that's all I got for this particular video. I know it went a little longer than normal. But hey, man, I wanted to get a few things off my chest. And like I said, man, cautiously optimistic. We'll see. But if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. Cut on that notification button. Hit that like button. And again, subscribe. And we'll definitely catch you in the next one. Until next time, let me know what you think. Peace.